Let's begin with one of the newly announced RTS games, which already has a release date for September of 2025. It is titled The Last General and is being marketed as a massive wargame real-time strategy featuring battlefields of up to 400 square kilometers and thousands of armored vehicles, helicopters, artillery, infantry, support and transport trucks. Its focus is on high-level strategic design, economic and political decisions, while its game modes cover deathmatch, insurrections, assassinations, protection, rescue, escape, and survival missions. For now, it is being developed by only one indie dev who pledged to keep most of the mechanics as realistic as he can and use simplifications or abstractions as little as possible. There will be air support, air strikes, and economic support coming from off-map allies. The amount of support will depend on the nation you play with and if you keep your international reputation high or not. Honestly, it is a lot of plans, few gameplay clips of it all, and a mention of a demo or playtest for 2025. Check out its Steam store page and feel free to share what you think of it in the comments below. When it comes to updates on games you can already buy and play, Godsworn developers just released their 7th content update, whose main feature is a 6-player skirmish map, perfect for free-for-all matches by the way, that has a massive creep-owned castle in the middle of it. If you are brave enough to tear down the walls and fight each enemy for it, there is a new glyph that can be acquired by the first team to destroy the main castle. The glyph is called King of the Hill and it grants a bonus for your shrine/HQ. The hero named Michael, who I am playing with here, also got an upgrade for his summoning abilities as part of this update. This is one of the best indie-made RTS games to be released in early access during 2024 and it keeps getting new updates like this one all the time. If you enjoy small-scale base building and army combat with some abilities and RPG-like hero leveling with god powers to boot, I highly recommend it. Another indie team is focused on bringing back that feel of playing Star Trek Armada 2, but in Sins of a Solar Empire, and they have already done so with Star Trek Armada 3 mod for that game. But for its sequel, they're developing the Star Trek Armada 4 mod, gameplay of which you're seeing here, specifically of the Cardassian faction. These folk at Stellar Parallax Studios do incredible work and I love to showcase their progress. They are able to bring the sounds, visual and feel of Star Trek so well even to a game like Sins 2 that isn't exactly built on the same gameplay foundations as was Star Trek Armada 2. And as for Sins 2, its own developers are very active, posting not just the roadmap recently and a lot of quality of life and texture updates, but also reworking some of the elements players had given most feedback on, like for example the game's pace in the first hour. They have added new tutorials explaining unique gameplay systems for factions including trading, Advent Unity and Vasari phase resonance. Additionally, new star types will be in the game, along with non-colonizable gravity wells with special gameplay effects on ships, as well as new custom debris for capital ships, titans and star bases for all factions. There is a lot more coming in 2025 for Sins 2 with several DLCs and expansions, and I will be right on top of it with more videos of this fantastic, if expensive, game. When it comes to upcoming indie RTS games, few are as hotly anticipated as Dustfront, whose sole developer keeps showing us his amazing talent with these small but fresh updates. It is going to be a single-player only Dieselpunk team RTS with a non-linear campaign experience with 3 different races, only one of which is human-looking. Base building and recruiting an army to fight is the core gameplay, but there is also another layer with a global map and turn-based grand strategy gameplay, featuring territories and a global economy, including researching, merchants, mercenaries, garrisons of units and random events. I have showcased it in much more depth in a video linked up here and down in the description, and for now we have to sit tight and let this indie dev work his magic on the game until final release. As for indie gems you will be able to at least try out soon, I want to announce the upcoming demo of Unnatural Worlds in January of 2025. This is a much grander scale RTS whose most impressive feature are certainly its unusual maps, which are planetoids of all shapes and sizes, including potatoes, horseshoes and gears. The other, also uncommon feature are logistics, which will elevate the macro-style gameplay of this strategy game even higher. Unnatural Worlds will have a dozen types of resources, which are packed in pallets or in boxes existing directly in the world. These require transportation, and for this trucks are used, which are mercifully controlled automatically. Another gameplay aspect which will feel strange when playing this demo is the lack of a technology tree or any research, as progression is designed to be done through acquiring or refining resources. The scale is going to be huge, with the game being able to support several thousand units at once. There is even a VR component for those who own that type of tech at home. One of the games I found the most interesting during 2024 is certainly Terminator Dark Fate Defiance, which is soon going to get a new VR Legion DLC, which is all about its AI robotic faction. It might not offer base building and resource collection, making it more a real-time tactical game, but the setting, the story, the way the campaign works, and the depth of tactical combat make up for this, at least in my book. This new content is currently being tested in a closed beta, but on release will offer its players a new story which focuses on Legion's mission to eradicate human resistance and assert dominance over the post-apocalyptic landscape. Meaning, you get to use Terminators and other massive cybernetic machines of war to hunt down the remaining humans. More on this in future videos. Another game from the same publisher, which plays slightly differently but also has a unique universe for its setting, is Starship Troopers Terran Command. It already has some DLCs, but is now getting a new content update with the Territory mode. This is a brand new gameplay mode, which is planned to be released early in 2025 as just a part of a major free update. The game will receive a ton of new content to both the base game and the two already released DLCs. What the developers want to do with these is to improve the levels up to which you can customize your playthroughs, make different choices, and therefore be able to replay the single player aspect again. Additionally, once it goes live, this content update will allow you to use both human marines and alien bugs from the base game and its DLCs together on the maps of all the Territory mode. Most importantly, the Territory mode introduces capturable territory points spread out across the maps, which net you a new resource type, which then you use to reinforce squads that have taken casualties and to unlock technologies. As for a game more true to the core of RTS, the solo indie project titled Endeavor has a longer name now, Endeavor Rite of Passage. It also has a third faction. It was playable along with the other two factions during its second Steam playtest for a while. The developer told me he received a lot of useful feedback and is going back to production of the campaign and skirmish. If you haven't seen my showcase of it before, it is linked up here on the right and down in the description, but the short version is this. Endeavor is a base building and unit combat sci-fi RTS with resource collection on medium-sized maps with asymmetrical factions, super weapons, super powers, veterancy upgrades, formations, and a long list of other amazing features. Hopefully we will see it playable again in 2025 and more of you will wishlist it on Steam.
The tides of darkness have come again.
Because it seems a month can't go by without a major game studio embarrassing itself with an attempt to cash in on its old IPs, Blizzard and probably some middle manager from Microsoft came up with a half-baked remaster of Warcraft 1 and 2. The Remastered introduced an always online connectivity to play and removed animations in the mission briefings as well as 3D pop-up maps, in order to add modern health bars, better unit selection, hotkeys, and overall better controls, with of course the graphical upgrade. You do still have the ability to go back to the old look at the press of a key, just like in other Blizzard remasters. There certainly is more, but my honest opinion is that it's not worth it. They even tried once more to iron out the trash tragedy of Reforged version for Warcraft 3, but by the looks of it, it's just by using AI to do the heavy lifting, meaning corporate greed doing its best to nickel and dime us with a hook made of nostalgia. Anyway, in more recent news, a new indie game titled Strategos showed up on Steam. It is a game made by developers obviously smelling the blood in the water and the potential downfall of the Total War franchise, which its own content creators are now talking about at great length. It will feature about 100 factions and over 200 units from the ancient world, custom battles as well as historical ones spread across the Mediterranean. Most importantly, armies will move information, have morale and generals, rout if broken, there will be fog of war, terrain effects, and I wish these developers a lot of luck, as well as an original UI before they get mail from Sega's lawyers. And speaking of Sega, that reminds me of Company of Heroes 3 and its latest update. I have to give credit to the developers for pushing through everything and adding more maps, content and options. Like this Orchid Spider update, which introduces more maps, the live observer mode, in-game leaderboards and a bunch of changes to the multiplayer with new unit veterancy, unit distinction and ability changes. This update is already live with a 4v4 Rapido river crossing map, a 2v2 Centurio community member-made map and the mentioned observer mode, in which you pick a game from a list and then you use this new tool to watch and even commentate on live matches, which can have a delay turned on of up to 30 minutes to prevent sneaky player behavior. Another game which had a big update recently is very different and not many of you have probably played it. But with a solo dev and a unique twist to the RTS formula, which is usually doomed to fail, this hybrid of RTS and FPS deserves at least a mention. Silica has received a new siege game mode and a new map called the Maw. You can guess by its name that it has an insatiable mouth at the center of its battlefield as its defining feature. The new siege mode itself is about protecting your base against relentless hordes of enemies or being the attacker as a soldier or commander. And while I was making this very video, the developer published yet another new map, this one called Crimson Peak, a top secret Balterium seeding site on the Centauri homeworld. There has yet to be a successful long-running RTS FPS hybrid, and for now my money is on Silica. Do let me know if you have played similar games in the past and which you have enjoyed the most. I want to now show you a newly released game which has yet to be published on Steam, and its developers are being brave for first releasing it only on Matrix Game Store, which is owned and operated by Slytherin. This is Armored Brigade 2, and it is a game not unlike many similar ones this publisher has helped to market and publish before. This sequel is now going full 3D with a new custom engine and lets you play out Cold War battles on a massive scale. A large list of nations are in this conflict, including of course the United States and the USSR. It is a war game at its core, meaning a certain level of simulation, including a dynamic feather system, but with a pause system as well, and both real-time and turn-based gameplay. You can play its dynamic and linear campaigns, or set up all sorts of skirmish matches on massive real-world maps based on actual satellite topographic data and historical maps. If that is a game according to your taste, you might have already played Warno 2, and that one is getting an expansion titled NORTHAG. The devs explained that the new content consists of 2 new army general campaigns, 4 new operations, 10 new divisions and 3 new playable nations, Belgium, Netherlands and Poland. With all this comes new unit models and new voice lines to help the units come to life. Apparently, this expansion will launch before the end of the year, so expect to be combating the Warsaw Pact with your NATO troops very soon. I know war games are a special niche, not all RTS fans enjoy, but there is a surprising number of such players when you scratch the surface and dip your toes in it. There is a reason so many developers like Eugene Systems specialize in these types of games, and there are more than a few indie ones too. When it comes to modders turning indie developers, none have bitten off a bigger bite than the ones trying to create their own type of a homeworld game, after modding that one for years. Era 1 is the title of their brainchild, which has now entered its 5th stable build available to their backers, while only the next, 6th build, expected a bit later, might finally come into my awaiting embrace. I'm going to give you a full rundown of its gameplay in a special, exclusive and dedicated video long before the game's expected early access release on Steam. I have done several videos on it already, linked up here and down in the description, but it's enough to say that the gameplay will be based entirely in 3D space. There will be a system of resource collection, base building, ship customization and manual creation one module at a time. Era 1 will feature fleets of ships, from fighters to battleships, formations to control those fleets, along with half a dozen other types of controls, as well as a research system and a population system. It is currently being made in the Unity engine, and despite being somewhat overdue, it looks magnificent despite the obvious frame rate drops. Usually at this point of the video I would tell you about RTS games on sale, but considering a massive autumn themed sale is on all digital stores and there are hundreds of games on sale for you to browse through, I won't go into specific games but continue with new games and updates. I am happy to report that Powerplay, that retro-inspired isometric indie RTS which has supply chains, has reached another milestone, and not only has it been developed a lot more, but it is also in a closed beta testing phase. The developers have redone their buildings, which look much better now, improved terrain painting to represent different biomes, and since this game has nukes but also supply chains, they have finally implemented the full nuclear production cycle. So to even launch nukes in this game, you have to first truck in your uranium, add it to conveyor belts and off to the silos to load up the nukes. Powerplay is designed in a way that forces the player to design and optimize networks of these conveyor belts to transport raw materials to factories where they are transformed into intermediate resources and weapons. Meaning, all you who talked about liking D.O.R.F's system of resource management and supply chains will enjoy this game too. And speaking of D.O.R.F, I did reach out to the developers, but they said their own resource systems are not ready for a video showcase yet. So more luck next time in a future video like this one. Now for all you fans of Age of Empires and Mythology, here is what's new about those games. Age of Empires 2 Definite Edition got a new DLC titled Battle for Greece, which is very narrative focused with a lot of familiar characters and a bucket full of voice acting and animated cutscenes. This DLC brings a full 21 mission campaign, 55 new land units, 19 new naval units and incredibly 85 new buildings. The three civilizations which take the center stage of antiquity are Archimedeans, Athenians and Spartans, while naval combat got an important overhaul with more military ship types, ramming and catapult ships. It is incredible to see this game keep receiving not just updates but also story DLCs like this one so many years after its first release. But it's all thanks to the faithful audience which even today hungers for more of its content. This is probably the best opportunity to mention that there is a citizens' initiative in the European Union to stop publishers from disabling video games and forcing them to keep them playable after the customer has made a purchase. It has already been signed by almost 500,000 citizens and needs only that many more until the summer of 2025 to get the administrative process going so that publishers are legally obliged to provide resources for their video games to be reasonably functional, playable once they discontinue them. This initiative is called Stop Destroying Video Games, and I have left a link in the description if you want and can sign the initiative. As for the other game that keeps getting supported, Age of Mythology Retold was to get the Immortal Pillars expansion, which would bring the whole of Chinese mythology and factions into the already rich gameplay. But it seems the developers decided to move the expected release date from 2024 to 2025, hopefully to iron it out more, rather than to just not compete with other game or DLC releases for customers' money in the same timeframe. And speaking of money and customers, I might as well talk about the monetization inside of Battle Aces. Because you see, during its latest beta, which featured the game's Warpath progression system, players were given 21,600 war credits as a way to explore more of the game's systems, which are linked to this type of in-game currency. Suffice it to say, someone made the obligatory calculations and came to the age-old conclusion that it would take the average player a huge amount of time to earn instead to pay. As if that is anything new in any game with such a system. These credits are used to customize your deck inside the game and choose the units you want to bring to battle. I personally gave up such games due to limited time to spend on them, but I felt obligated to explain it to any potential future players among you. When it comes to new releases, I want to point out that the new Kingdom Wars game set in the Renaissance era is now out on Steam. And if you haven't played any of the older games of the series in the past, you should know it's a mix of RTS battles and grand strategy campaign map gameplay. In the sequel, you get to stomp with your armies and fleets across Europe, Africa and Middle East, starting out as a captain of a mercenary company and ending up as a holy emperor. There are 500 provinces in the game and a huge number of nations you can control. It might not be the best looking game out there, and I wish the developers would upgrade to a new engine, but still, it does have its own unique charm as it is. Now, for this video, I was hoping to be able to show you the latest update of Ablight, that indie cyberpunk RTS I found last year, but the developers made me promise to wait a bit more, and sent this gameplay clip instead. I will go into much more detail about its gameplay in an exclusive in-depth video once I get my hands on its playable version. So for now, keep in mind that this team aims high and have decided to come out with a very playable and good looking version. Ablight will have all the classic elements you expect from an RTS with 3 asymmetrical factions, while its theme and setting are definitely going to be unique and probably only close to Rise of Legends, that old offshoot of Rise of Nations. As for another upcoming game by a few indie devs who are trying their best to stay true to the old school RTS system of base building, resource collection and simple unit combat, I have a few fresh clips of its gameplay courtesy of its developers. Fractured Alliance is shaping up nicely, with infantry, vehicles, air units, even walls and defensive turrets. The right side of the UI is dedicated for the build bar, which holds everything you need to click on to construct buildings or recruit units. Since these developers have both a campaign and multiplayer gameplay on their to-do list, we can be sure there will be some sort of a demo or playtest available for us to leave feedback on. I will let you know as soon as there is one, so for now just make sure to wishlist the game and show the developers how many of us want to play such a game. One more game which just recently hit my radar is Circle Empires 2, a sequel to a 2018 game and another in a line of similar games. It is a lot more colorful and relaxed game compared to many on this list, where you build your armies, conquer enemy bosses and adapt to an ever-changing world that is made up of sections which have different challenges, resources, wildlife and even totally different biomes. This game offers both single and multiplayer battles, along with co-op modes, so there should be something for everyone. A similarly colorful but much less complex indie game is Battle for Vera. It has already been released on Steam, and it's so retro you might as well connect your monitor to a potato and play it. Just kidding, of course. There is a demo to try out, which is 3 missions long, while the full game offers 3 different factions and 3 campaigns, each one being 10 missions long. All the units do have voice lines and the gameplay is followed by a nice soundtrack. Another game whose demo we had a chance to play some time ago is Grit and Valor 1949. And now it has a closed beta which should start very soon, and you can apply to test out the dieselpunk real-time tactics of this alternate history World War II game. It has mechs and pilots for you to both manage and control in battles. The battlefields might look small and closed, but they are made so to focus the combat down to a knife's edge. There are different terrain elevations, cover mechanics, and when you are off the battlefield, you are back at your base to rebuild and upgrade your squad, so you can go back and face the enemy and their kaiju-sized boss mechs. Its gameplay modes are not all known yet, so stay tuned in. One more indie game, which is both colorful and has a playable demo right now on Steam, is Counter Clash, whose developer wants me to let you know he has added heroes to the mix of units already in the game. These have several abilities, like the spear throwing or mace flurry of Lieutenant Moss or piercing shots and tornado of Alisa the Shaman. There will be more of this game to test out during the next fest, specifically the second faction, so try to keep an eye on this game even if you played its current demo. This one does have some base building, resource collection and unit upgrades, so it is more in line with standard RTS gameplay, but it is single player only. And one AAA developer team who needed no luck to sell millions of copies if they just made a game people wanted to play instead of a game they wanted to make, are the folks behind Homeworld 3. Now that we all voted with our wallets and no one is paying or playing their game, they have graciously decided to shove their creative vision up where the sun does not shine and overhauled almost the entire gameplay to where it should have been from the start. Too little too late, they have reworked both the armor and direction damage systems, made Strikecraft more resilient, gave players the choice when to finish missions in single player, reworked the tech trees, added bandbox attack command and an option for hyperspace jumping in skirmish. They have also used this chance to put the final nail in the coffin known as Wargames mode, with the 2 new DLCs, which feature extra factions, probably cut mid-game production anyway. A very salty end of a fantastic franchise for all parties involved. A shameful display if I ever saw one. Anyway, let's end this video with a happier note, that of a small update on Defcon 0, the totally new indie RTS in development that is being made in the Unreal Engine. The developers promised a new video update for next time, while today I can show you some screenshots from the latest version, as well as to say they are working on the playable pre-alpha, which is expected to be ready by the end of December or somewhere in January. It will feature a fully playable mission with narrative and cinematics. That version will, however, be only for internal use to check the game systems, start building the missions on top of it and create gameplay trailers. For more such games and updates, use the cards on the screen or links in the description. Thank you for watching and happy gaming!